Hello guys. Welcome to another tutorial of how to make a game like Agario. In this video, we will make our play able to throw mass, and we will make our player dynamically lose mass with the time. When a player throw mass, the new mass will have a force that will goes in a direction that the player face. So let's create a script for the mass force. And create another script for our player actions. This script will be handling all of actions that the player can do, like throwing mass, or jumping and other things that a player can do. Go to our mass object and give the script it, and go to the player, and give the action script it, then double-click on the action script to open it in Visual Studio. The variable that we will need to throw mass is the game object of our mass. We have already made a prefab for our mass, and a transform of where to instantiate the mass. Also, in the action script, we want our player to lose mass. So we will create a public float percentage variable that equals to 0.1 by default. Now let's create a throw mass method. This method will have the process of throwing mass. First of all, we want to check if the player x scale was less than 1. Then we will not be able to throw mass by returning out of this method. So that means, our player won't be able to throw mass if his scale was less than 1. And then, when throwing a mass, we want to rotate our player to make it face the mouse position. So when applying the mass force, it will go from the mass position into that direction. How to rotate the player? Well, when subtracting two vectors, we will get a direction that goes from one point to another. We do that to get the direction from our player to the mouse position. Create a new vector 2 that equals to transform.position minus camera.main.screen to world point, and give the mouse position, and that is how to get the direction. But we still need to convert the direction into an angle, so we can apply it to our player. To convert the direction into an angle, we will use mathf.addIn2 function. This function converts the direction into an angle. Make a new float variable equals to mathf.addIn2. And here you will need to put the direction.y first, and the direction.x. It will return the values into radians, but we need it to be in degrees, so multiply it with mathf.radians to degrees. And with my experience, I know that it will be rotated minus 90 degrees, so just give it plus 90. Then we are ready to apply the rotation. Transform.rotation is equals to quaternion.Euler, 0 on the x, and 0 on the y, and give the z rotation on the z, so it will be facing the mouse position. After rotating the player, we will throw mass. To throw mass, we will instantiate a new mass, so instantiate mass, and give mass position.position, then quaternion.identity to ignore the rotation, store it into a game object variable. And after instantiating the mass, we want to apply the force to it, and then add it to the player. To add it to the player, make a variable of player mass, and in the start method, player mass is equals to get component of type player mass. Then down here, we will say player mass.addMass, and give the mass object that we have created, and also we want to decrease our player's scale. Whenever throwing some mass, to decrease the scale write transform.localScale minus equals to new vector 3, 0.05, for the x and y and z, and now let's make our player lose mass dynamically. In the update method, transform.localScale is minus equals to a new vector 3, and put the percentage variable that we have made. Now go inside the mass force script. Let's make a Boolean variable equals to false by default. That will decide whether or not we want to apply the force. And make a public float speed variable. And another public float variable. It will be used to reduce the force of the mass until it is 0. Change the speed value to 30 by default. In the void update method, we will check if apply force boolean is true. Then we will apply the force. we will move mass by using transform.translate function, and give it a vector 3.up to make it goes at forward, multiply with speed variable that we have made, and time.delta time, to make it independent on the frame rate of the device. It will be related to the game object space by default. Then we will reduce our speed by saying, speed minus equals to, lose speed, multiply with time.delta time. Then down, check if the speed is less than 0, if it is, then we will disable this script because we don't want to apply the force anymore. In the start method, check if the boolean is equals to false, if it is, then disable the script, because we don't want to apply the force in all cases. When instantiating mass from the spawner there is no need to apply the force. And another thing that we want to do is to rotate the mass and also randomize the rotation. That will give a nice looking force for our game. To do that, we will do the same thing that we have done when rotating the player, but before apply the values, we will randomize the rotation. We will do that in a second. Create a new vector 2 that equals to transform.position minus camera.main.screen to world point, and give the mouse position. Make a new float variable equals to mathf.addin2, and here you will need to put the direction.y first, and the direction.x. It will return the values into radians, but we need it to be in degrees, so multiply it with mathf.radians to degrees plus 90. Then apply the rotation. Transform.rotation is equals to a quaternion.Euler. 0 on the x and 0 on the y and z rotation on the z, and we will also make a point to randomize the force too. Now let's go inside of our player movements and create call the throw mass method into the action script. Go make a reference to our action script, and in the start method, actions is equals to get component of type actions. Inside the update method or our player movement script, check if input.getKey, keycode.w, means, if our player is pressing the W key, we will call the throw mass method. You can use any key you would like. And now let's apply the mass force in the action script. Simply get a component in the new instantiated mass, of type mass force. Apply force is equals to true. Now get into Unity. Create a new empty game object and call it mass position. This is where our masses will be instantiated when throwing mass. Drag it a little bit up on the edge of the ball. Go to the player and give this game object to the action script. Now play. As you can see, we are able to throw mass. Now let's go to randomize the rotation in the force of the mass force script. Make a public float random rotation, equals to 10 by default, and a public float random force, equals to 5 by default. And to random the rotation, we say, z rotation is plus equals to random range, between minus random rotation and random rotation. That how to get a random values, and to randomize the force, we will do the same thing. And go play. As you can see, the force and the rotation is not all same, and that is exactly what we wanted to do. That's it for this video. If you have enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to help us grow our channel. Without further ado, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.